Okay, so here you can see where I've been working on the little Westie dog. For this one I chose to use the it's what's known as the dark grey. It's not the anthracite, it's not the light grey Pastelmat, it's the dark grey. It's actually quite a warm mid-grey. I almost went for the anthracite, which is the darkest one, but this one just had slightly warmer tones. The anthracite was a lot cooler, so gone for this one. So as you can see here, what I've done is mapped in my little Westie, and then I've started to pop in some of these undertones, and I'm using Luminance for this one. And again, these are the colours. I haven't used any white yet. I've got a white in my hand. I've used quite a lot of colours actually. I'll show you the full spectrum of colours I've used so far in just mapping this one out. You can see there's lots of blues, bluish greys, steel greys, some buttercuppy yellow colours, some pale greys, some browns, umbers, and some violets in there as well. So back to this building. So again, I'm marking the shadows first of all, getting my tonal values, starting to build those for my underlayers. So lots of the bluey grey. Then over through here as well, we've got deep dark bluey grey coming down to the ends. We also have hints of violet through here as well. There's also some hints of brown through here. So I'm just going to come up to the next level now and just start to pop in some of our lighter tones in between. Here's going to be a case of just building, because over on this side it's quite lots of browns underneath, lots of brown tones in through here as well, and some violets down through here under where the mouth is, but mainly we'll be using quite a lot of this dark brown in through here. Again, I've got hints of shades and hues of colour values in, and then gradually just build. I don't use a blender, but just use the pencil to blend with the previous layer. Also over here we've got some of this sort of buttercuppy shade where the fur is partly reflecting. The little dog is lying on a real like dark mahogany sort of deep rich wooden flooring, so that's reflecting back up into his fur. And also with white dogs you do often get discoloration around the mouth area, obviously where they drink and dribble a little bit of their water. Over time that can start to build up into some of these sort of pinkier tones underneath where the mouth is. This one's much more browny shades because of this, let's say the wood reflecting up is actually stronger than any tonal value that's come in from discoloration of the fur itself. Also in here as well we have these little lines coming out. Dark needs to go slightly darker. I'm just going to go in there with my black over the blue. I'll use my blue over the top again just to soften it back a little bit. Some of these areas are really intense. So we just use the black as a mixer just to increase and intensify value of that shadow underneath. So we want to make sure this dog is not floating, he's actually lying on this floor. And you need that lovely, we'll have the reflection later on, but we need depth of value. And that's what people sometimes, when you're beginning, you're afraid to really push your tonal values. But you really need to, and that's what makes the difference between the work when you start out and when you can take it up to that next level. And Pastelmat is great because it does allow you, if I take this too dark, I can just go back in there and soften it. Just mix each layer with the previous layer. So again, I always say a Pastelmat support is your mixing palette. I'd rather do this using lots of light layers and just go in and basically stick one real heavy layer in there, because you want to mix. You don't want to just go in here with one pencil, colour, tone or value. You want to build, blend, mix. Each layer of pencil. That's what creates that beautiful richness. So there, I've taken that quite dark in there now. That's fine. Because when we blend over the top, and we add layers over the top, our lighter shades, it will soften out. Yes, I want here under the eye as well. Some of this, just a hint of this yellowy tones, just coming away from the eye. And just underneath here, it's quite a warmish area, just coming away from the eye there. Same as we've got this lovely warm tone over here. And hints down through here. But then over the top of that, I'll come in with one of that more ivory shades, and that will start. It'll take 2 or 3 times of building this layer as well. It's just not just a case of going in once, because one, it's going to be really grainy on our Pastelmat, which we don't want. We want to try and get rid of some of that tooth on our Pastelmat. I'm just going to start building this, going over those dark lines as well, and you instantly see those soften back. I'm bringing this ivory colour down through here very lightly, but I'm going to go over it though with, I've got a cooler grey here as well, so as it comes down through to these ends, it's more of a cool grey tone. Like I say, we'll need to repeat this a couple of times. We need to come back as well. I've got a warmish grey here that's going to come down over some of this dark. It is just keep flicking your eyes back to that reference, so it's reference photo drawing, reference photo drawing, reference photo drawing, reference photo drawing, reference photo drawing. In here, some pinky shades as well. Just looking for a nice pinky shade. Okay, we're going to pull some of the pinky shade out here. You should end up with a lovely mix of all of these tones. Notice I haven't used the white at all. I will use it, so I really want to pull it in at the ends just to really enhance some of where the light is really hitting the brightest areas. So I use it more of a highlighter than a coloration tool for the fur. So I'm popping lots of that primrosy yellow down through here. It's actually a brown ochre, 50% this one. I'm going to glaze over all that brown area that was down through here. But then we'll come back through, pop our darks, shadows in underneath again. Layer and layer and layer. And then when you think you've done enough, you layer again. Okay, so I'll speed up now with the filming, and hoped you should come back to seeing this muzzle a little bit closer to completion.
Okay, so you can see there that I've added all of that pencil work around the muzzle. The muzzle, obviously in the eyes, that point is going to be the feature area, so I wanted to get some definition in there with those luminance first of all. That area is going to be softened up with touches of Panpastel. And I've also obviously just mapped in lightly the ears, the outline of the actual head and body itself, just very softly with the luminance pencils. Now I want to go in with my Panpastels. Now I've chosen Panpastels because just looking at the dog, so soft, there's not a huge amount of fur detail back there, so I didn't want to be using the pencils, and if I was, I'd be blending them out anyway to create more of a wash. So the Panpastels work perfectly. This is a perfect example of where you would use these in a commission piece or on a portrait, combined with your pencils to create that extra softness. Obviously, if you wanted to do pure pencils, that is fine. You could have done the whole thing of this with Panpastels and, say, pastel pencils. But I chose to obviously combine the two, and I do bring in a couple of polychromos as well. So you can see here, just me, I'm looking at the reference photo as well, I am using a mix of tones here. Obviously I have got the white, I've got my soft tool to apply with. I'm also using some of the tints. I'm using a neutral grey tint, which is the 820.8, and I'm also using the natural, just reading my ones here, neutral grey tint 820.7. The 0.7 is just a tiny bit darker. And I'm also using the Hansi yellow tint, the 220.8, which is a very, very pale yellow. And also, believe it or not, I'm using the orange extra dark. Now, when you use your Panpastels, you mix and blend, so you can pick them all up on your soft tool, on your application tool. And you can either put them down as flat colours, or you and put one layer on top of the other of different colour or tones. Obviously my light is reflecting on here. It's quite brightly lit. I've got my daylight lamp. You're not seeing it super detailed here, but I will add in a touch more colour. As my hand comes over, you can see there's little touches of yellow in there, and there's also some hints of, I never know if I say this right or not, I'll say it, Pastelmat blue tint. I'll read the number anyway. That is 560.8, and that is like a baby blue tone as well. It's up in that fur. So I've just mapped the back of the body in first of all. Now this dog is quite backlit. Now if you see the actual reference photo for this, I'm sure I did post it somewhere on my Patreon. In the reference photo, the dog, it's taken at Christmas time, this one, and the dog, believe it or not, is wearing a huge pair of furry antlers, and he's also got fairy lights wrapped around his back. So that means there's little tiny bright lights around his back, which is casting quite a yellow sheen. So I've had to try and eliminate that, and also take out the big ears that were sitting on the top of behind his head as well. So a bit of artistic license there. So by taking away the yellow light, I've looked at the dog as a whole and brought in, it's quite a bluish bright light down this side. So I'm using that one I cannot say, I'll say phthalo blue tint, mixed with a touch of white down around that left hand side, but I'll use more yellowy tones, so more of that orange extra dark and the Hansi yellow tint up around the right hand side. So it's a bit like going from cool colours on the left over to the warmer colours on the right hand side. And what I want to do here literally is just get a nice underpainting into the Pastelmat, using Panpastels, filling up the tooth, but also creating that super softness that does form the fur of this dog. I find that Panpastels are fantastic for using with dogs that are clipped. So like your terrier, well, apart from your wire terriers, obviously, but your soft terriers, also your doodles, your poodles, your doodles, sometimes some of the spaniels even that are clipped, because when they're clipped, it takes away all that textured, lived-in fur, almost hardened fur, and it gives a real soft, you just see the soft undercoat coming through. You see here, where I've worked the pencil before, I've just gone in on that muzzle area just with a little touch of pastel. I will go over the rest of it. It's not a waste of time. Some people say, oh, why don't you just put the Panpastel straight down? I wanted to get that definition of the muzzle in there, and the undertones of the pencil will shine through. I'm just literally putting a very, very light touch in of pastel over the top, and it blends. It works almost like a blender and a softener. Here you can just see where I'm just pasting it very, very gently, just little touches down over the cheek. And to be honest, there's probably hardly any Panpastel on my tool at all. I put a little touch on the brightest area and then push it up very lightly. So it just softens the pencil work a little bit. I mean, this area will get worked so much more anyway. I'm just using the side of the soft tool or the point, just popping in little dabs and then smoothing it out up over the area. You should just see that area has just softened up so much already. It's strange, when I take my hand away from under the camera, it almost makes the support look brownish in tone, but when I take my hand away, it drops back to being more grey. I mean, this is the dark grey Pastelmat, which is warm and it is quite brownish grey, but not quite as much as it's depicting here. And I am using a different camera for this video than I normally use. I'm using my my Logitech camera rather than my Sony camera, so I thought I'd just try that, and I've just tried a new method of recording. In future, I'm hoping to set up with 2 cameras, so you've got a close-up from a different angle, or it might be on my palette, my tin of pencils, so you'll see the pencils that I'm choosing, or the pastels that I'm choosing, and how I'm mixing them, the bit I'm doing off screen, the bit that you can't see. I want you to be able to see that as well, so that is a plan. I just need to work my head around the software side of that. But again, this isn't really a full tutorial, just to explain. This is a commission piece, and I'm just happened to film it start to finish. My client gave me permission very kindly, so I'm just showing you how I put this together. So here as well, for the darker areas, there is a very, 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 very tiny tint of black in there, just in a dark shadow, but to be honest, I use the neutral grey extra dark for my darker areas. To be honest, I think that pretty much covers the colours I use. I did use a Payne's grey as well for some of the bluey dark areas. A very simple palette, sort of half a dozen tints and shades and the white. In here it's a mix again of the grey and that orange extra dark. The orange extra dark looks very yellow ochre, so that mixed with the grey and also a tiny tint of the phthalo blue tint. I need to Google that and see what it tells me to say, how to pronounce it properly, and I'll get that right for you. But here, yeah, I'm just looking at shapes. So looking at shapes, shadows, and where my brightest light is, because you don't want super dark shadows here. You can enhance it with the pencil later on. But here it is just literally looking for shapes and shadows. So I'll leave you with the commentary there for now. And it's pretty much, we're just going to carry on doing this up over the head and around the side of the face. Okay, and I'll be back with you before we get to the end of this underpainting layer. Okay, so just joining you here whilst we come to the end of this initial underpainting of the actual dog. As you can see, I've started to pop in a little hint of some of the pink within the ear. Now, that's actually, I don't have the full set of Panpastels, so I have to mix the colours as well. So here I actually use a magenta extra dark, which is quite purple to look at. I mixed it with a tiny touch of that Hansa yellow tint, a little bit of neutral grey tint, a lighter one, and together they mix together and then form lovely pale pink, and then a little touch more of the magenta extra dark with a little hint of the Payne's grey. That will just give you the real dark areas, but we're going to go in there with our pencils anyway to enhance that. It's just to get, it's trying to figure out how much you just use with the Panpastel for the underpainting. And for this mainly, we want to use the Panpastel for the fur, the soft fur, chunky fur, and across the back and the feathered outer edges. So it doesn't matter too much for the ears. It just helps us to fill that tooth a little bit with some pastel content. So this is coming to the end of this first part, which is just the underpainting. And so the next part that I'll edit and pop up will be where we start back in with our pencils, putting in some details, breaking up the shapes and shadows, and starting to bring little doggy to life. Okay, so I shall join you again then. Thank you for watching, and please remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, bottom right hand corner, if you haven't already.